The silence of deep space shattered as the Terran defense ship Thunderbolt burst from hyperspace in a brilliant flash of blue energy. Captain Han Duyang gripped the command chair as the ship's massive frame groaned under the stress of the jump. Warning lights bathed the bridge in red as sensor rays came online, revealing a nightmare that made his blood run cold. "Sweet Mother of Earth," whispered Navigator Choi Minho, his face pale as he stared at the tactical display. New horizon hung before them like a blue jewel, its surface dotted with the lights of human cities, but surrounding the colony world, like vultures circling wounded prey, were 47 alien warships. The vessels were massive, their hulls gleaming with energy shields and bristling with weapon ports that could crack a moon in half. Captain Han had served in the Terran Defense Force for 23 years. He'd fought pirates in the asteroid belts, battled rogue airships in the Outer Rim, and survived the massacre at Proxima Station, but nothing had prepared him for this sight. The hegemony fleet stretched across space like a wall of death, each ship flying the crimson banners of conquest. "Captain, incoming transmission from the surface," reported Lieutenant Kim Sora, her voice trembling as she worked her communications console. Her fingers danced across holographic displays, trying to filter through the static. "It's Governor Shen. The colony is under bombardment. They've lost 12 cities already." The view screen flickered to life, showing the desperate face of Governor Chen Weiming behind him. Explosions lit up the night sky like deadly fireworks. "Captain Han, thank God you're here. They came without warning 3 hours ago, demanded our complete surrender. When we refused, they started bombing civilian targets. 2 million people are depending on you." The transmission cut to static as another orbital bombardment struck. The planet's surface, Han felt his crew's eyes on him, waiting for orders that could save or doom them all. The Thunderbolt was a good ship, built for deep space patrol and anti-piracy operations, but against 47 hegemony warships, it was like bringing a knife to a gunfight, sir. "We're being hailed by the enemy fleet," Kim Sora announced, her voice barely steady. "It's their fleet commander. Put him through," Han ordered, straightening in his chair. If these were his final moments, he'd face them standing tall. The view screen dissolved into the image of Admiral Zethric, a towering creature that looked like a cross between a reptile and an insect. His forearms were covered in ceremonial armor, while compound eyes glowed with malicious intelligence. Behind him, the bridge of his flagship buzzed with activity as dozens of alien crew members prepared for slaughter. The cavalry arrives." Zephyric's voice was like grinding metal, translated through the ship's universal communicator. "One pathetic human vessel against the might of the hegemony. How amusing." The alien admiral gestured with one of his lower arms, and the tactical display showed the true scope of their enemy. The hegemony wasn't just 12 species working together. It was a machine of conquest that had crushed 1,000 civilizations. Their ships were flying fortresses, each one carrying enough firepower to sterilize a continent, primitive mammals. Zethric continued, his mandibles clicking with what might have been laughter. "You have stumbled into forces beyond your tiny comprehension. Your pathetic vessel is outnumbered 47 to 1. Surrender now, and we may allow your colony to live as slaves. Resist, and we will turn your world into a monument to hegemony." How? Chief Engineer Park Jinwoo looked up from his station, sweat beading on his forehead. The man had kept their ship running through asteroid storms and solar flares. But Han could see the fear in his eyes. They all knew the odds. The Thunderbolt carried a crew of 200 Earth's finest engineers, soldiers, and officers. Each one had sworn an oath to protect human colonies, even if it meant their lives. Weapons Officer Lee Do-yoon checked her targeting systems one final time. A console showed their armament, plasma cannons designed for ship-to-ship combat, mining lasers converted for military use, and a handful of nuclear torpedoes. Against the hegemony's shields and armor, it would be like throwing rocks at a battleship, Captain, she said quietly. Our weapons are online. But, sir, their lead ship alone has more firepower than our entire fleet back home. Han nodded, understanding the unspoken message. This wasn't a battle they could win through conventional means. The hegemony had conquered the galaxy through overwhelming force, crushing any resistance with ruthless efficiency. Their tactics were simple: rive with superior numbers, demand surrender, and destroy anyone foolish enough to resist. But humans had never been known for doing things the easy way. Send this message to the hegemony fleet, Han said, his voice carrying across the bridge with quiet authority. Every crew member straightened, pride replacing fear in their eyes. The Terran Defense Force does not surrender to bullies. Stand down immediately or face the consequences. The bridge fell silent except for the hum of ship systems and the distant rumble of the reactor core. Through the view screen, they watched as the massive hegemony warships began shifting position, forming a perfect sphere around their lone vessel. It was like watching wolves circle a wounded deer. Admiral Zethrik's laughter echoed through space, a sound that made the ship's hull vibrate. Then you have chosen death, foolish humans. Your species will learn why the galaxy fears the hegemony. When we finish with your ship, we will make your colony's destruction last for days. Their screams will echo across the stars as a warning to any who dare defy us. The alien admiral raised all forearms in a gesture of command across his fleet. Weapon ports began to glow with deadly energy. 47 ships prepared to unleash hell upon the single human vessel that dared to stand against them. Han looked round his bridge one final time, seeing the faces of men and women who had become his family over the years. They were scared only. A fool wouldn't be, but not one of them suggested retreat. They knew what was at stake. 2 million human lives hung in the balance. And the Thunderbolt was all that stood between them and annihilation. All hands, this is the captain, Han announced over the ship's intercom. Battle stations. Today, we show the galaxy what humanity is made of. The galaxy exploded into violence as 47 alien warships opened fire simultaneously. Massive energy beams, each one capable of melting a city block, converged on the Thunderbolt's position. The void of space lit up like a deadly fireworks show as plasma bolts and particle beams created a web of destruction where the human ship had been just seconds before. But Captain Han DeYoung hadn't survived 15 years of deep space combat. By playing by the rules, the moment he saw the weapon ports charging, he was already shouting orders. Emergency dive. Use the planet's gravity, Han commanded. His knuckles white as he gripped his command chair. The Thunderbolt suddenly dropped, like a stone, diving straight toward New Horizons' surface. The ship's hull groaned and creaked as they plunged into the planet's gravity well, using the massive celestial body like a slingshot, where moments before there had been a sitting duck. Now there was only empty space and confused alien gunners. Holy hell, that was close, shouted Tactical Officer Kim Jae-sung as he watched the sensor readings. The combined firepower of the hegemony fleet had been enough to vaporize a small moon, but it had struck nothing but vacuum. The alien ships scrambled to retarget, their massive hulls slowly turning to track the diving human vessel. But these were warships built for traditional fleet battles, designed to trade devastating blows at long range. They moved like giant whales in space, powerful but clumsy. Engineering, I need everything you've got, Han shouted over the roar of overstressed engines. Chief Engineer Park Jin-woo's voice crackled back through the intercom, barely audible over the screaming of machinery pushed beyond its limits. Reactor, At 110% and climbing. Captain, the fusion core is redlining. But she'll hold. I can give you maybe 30 minutes at this power level before we start melting vital systems. The Thunderbolt shot past the outer hegemony ships like a bullet, moving so fast that their targeting computers couldn't lock on. Han had turned their ship into a missile, using every trick he'd learned fighting pirates and raiders in the outer systems. The key to survival wasn't having the biggest guns, it was being where the enemy didn't expect you to be. Weapons, light them up, Han ordered. Li Doyun's fingers danced across her control panel with deadly precision. The ship's mining lasers, never designed for space combat, had been modified and overcharged into surgical instruments of destruction, instead of trying to punch through the aliens' heavy armor. She targeted their weak points engine exhaust ports, sensor arrays, and weapon emplacements. Targeting the lead cruiser's engine cluster, Doyun reported, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. Firing now. Twin beams of concentrated energy lanced out from the Thunderbolt *. Striking the hegemony cruiser Dominator right, where its massive engines connected to the hull. The alien ship's shields flared and died as the precisely targeted shots overloaded the power couplings. Explosions rippled along the cruiser's stern as secondary systems overloaded. The human ship wove between the hegemony vessels like a dancer among giants, never staying in one place long enough for the enemy to get a solid lock. Han pushed their maneuverability to the absolute limit, using thruster burns that would have torn apart a lesser vessel. Lieutenant Kim So-raw monitored the flood of enemy communications, her translation software working overtime to decode the alien chatter. Captain, their formations are falling apart. I'm hearing panic in their voices. They keep asking their commanders what to do about a ship that won't fight like it's supposed to. The hegemony had conquered the galaxy through simple, brutal tactics. Their ships were bigger, their weapons more powerful, and they always had superior numbers for 1,000 years. Every battle had followed the same pattern. To fleets would line up and trade devastating blows until one side was destroyed. It was warfare by mathematics, and the hegemony always had the bigger numbers, but humans fought differently. They turned every disadvantage into an advantage, every weakness into a weapon. Park, what's the status on those improvised missiles? Han called out as the ship shuddered under the stress of another hydrogen. Almost ready. Captain, came the reply from engineering. I've turned our cargo bay fabricators into a weapons factory. We're using spare hull plating as warheads and packing them with industrial explosives. Not pretty, but they'll punch through alien armor like paper. The Thunderbolt suddenly reversed thrust, killing its forward momentum and sliding sideways past the Dominator's blind spot for just a moment. They were hidden in the shadow of the massive alien cruiser, invisible to the rest of the fleet. Fire everything. Han commanded .20 improvised missiles shot from their cargo bay, each one a crude but deadly projectile made from scrap metal and mining explosives. They struck the Dominator's engine section like a shotgun blast, tearing through armor that could withstand nuclear weapons. The alien cruiser shuddered, its lights flickering as power systems failed throughout the ship. Direct hit, Doyun shouted triumphantly. The Dominator is dead in space. Across the hegemony fleet, alien commanders stared in disbelief at their tactical displays. In less than an hour, a single human ship had crippled one of their most powerful cruisers. It was impossible. It violated every principle of space warfare they had learned over centuries of conquest. Impossible. Admiral Zethrica's voice roared across all communication frequencies, his carefully controlled demeanor finally cracking. No single ship can defeat the might of the hegemony. All ships converge on the human vessel, crush them with overwhelming firepower. But the humans were just getting started. Captain Han had fought in the asteroid wars, where space miners had learned to turn their environment into a weapon. The area around New Horizon was rich with debris old satellites, space, junk, and the remnants of destroyed ships from previous battles. Navigation, take us through the orbital graveyard, Han ordered. Let's see how well these aliens handle an obstacle course. The Thunderbolt dove into a field of spinning debris. Weaving between chunks of metal and ice with suicidal precision, the hegemony ships, massive and unwieldy, had to slow down or risk collision. Their formation, perfect for a traditional battle, became a liability as they struggled to maintain coordination while navigating the hazardous field. They're getting tangled up in their own formation. Kim Sora reported excitedly. 3 ships just collided trying to avoid that old space station wreck. Han smiled grimly as he watched the tactical display. The aliens were learning a hard lesson about human ingenuity. Humans didn't just fight with weapons, they fought with everything round them, turning the battlefield itself into an ally. The second kill came when they lured the cruiser Eternal Might into a trap, using a derrick. Mining platform as cover, the Thunderbolt waited until the alien ship was committed to its attack run, then fired their entire complement of nuclear torpedoes at a massive piece of orbital debris. The explosion sent house-sized chunks of metal flying like bullets, shredding the cruiser's hull and sending it spinning out of control. By the end of the second hour, 4 hegemony vessels were either destroyed or crippled, their crews evacuating. In escape pods, the remaining 43 ships hung in space like confused predators, their commanders frantically trying to adapt to an enemy that refused to follow the rules of civilized warfare. Across the galaxy, quantum communication networks carried the impossible news. The hegemony masters of space for a millennium were being systematically destroyed by a single human warship on 1,000 oppressed worlds. Enslaved species looked up at the stars with something they hadn't felt in generations: hope. The age of human warfare had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. The quantum communication networks across the galaxy buzzed with impossible news. On 1,000 worlds, billions of beings huddled round their screens, watching something that hadn't happened in over a millennium. Someone was fighting back against the hegemony and winning. The live feed from New Horizon showed a single human warship dancing through space like death itself, leaving a trail of burning alien vessels in its wake on the mining world of Kepler-4 to be. A group of enslaved Centauri workers stopped their drilling operations to stare at the broadcast. Their overseer, a brutal Krillian soldier, screamed at them to return to work. But for the first time in decades, they ignored him. Hope was a dangerous thing when it started spreading. "Look at them fight," whispered one of the miners, his 6 arms trembling with excitement. "They're not running. They're not surrendering. They're winning." Captain Han Duyan felt the weight of those watching eyes across the galaxy. But he pushed the thought aside. Right now, his focus was pure survival and the systematic destruction of everything that threatened his people. The human crew of the Thunderbolt worked with an intensity that amazed even him. Damage report. Han called out as the ship shuddered under another near miss from alien plasma cannons. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 9. But emergency bulkheads are holding, reported Chief Engineer Park Jin-woo, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "Captain, I've got teams crawling through the maintenance shafts, welding patches, while we're still in combat. Never seen anything like it." It was true. While alien crews would have panicked under such conditions, the humans seemed to thrive on the pressure. Their stress response system, evolved from millions of years of survival in a dangerous world, actually sharpened their focus and increased their efficiency. Adrenaline didn't make them sloppy, it made them deadly. Navigation Officer Choi Min-ho suddenly looked up from his console, his face pale. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the outer system. 17 more hegemony ships just dropped out of hyperspace. They're moving in fast." The bridge fell silent for a moment. They had already been outnumbered 47-1. Now the odds were even worse. Any sane commander would have considered retreat. But Han just smiled, an expression that would have terrified anyone who knew him well. "Good," he said calmly. "More targets." The crew exchanged glances, then burst into nervous laughter. Their captain was either completely insane or the most brilliant tactical mind in human space. Either way, they were committed to following him into hell itself. The Thunderbolt had become something more than a warship. It had become a ghost that haunted the space round New Horizon. Chief Engineer Park had performed miracles with their damaged systems, jury-rigging repairs that shouldn't have been possible. Their port engine had been held together with spare parts from a food processor. Their main sensor array was being powered by backup batteries that Park had stolen from the crew quarters. "How are we still flying?" asked Weapons Officer Lee Do-yoon as she watched her targeting computer flicker between life and death. "Stubbornness and duct tape," Park replied over the intercom, "plus a few tricks I learned fixing mining equipment in the asteroid belt. These alien ships are built like luxury cars, pretty, but break easy. Our ship is built like an old truck, ugly as sin, but it'll run forever if you know how to fix it." Lieutenant Kim So-ra monitored the enemy communications, and what she heard was music to her ears. "Captain, their coordination is falling apart. I'm intercepting panic transmissions. Some ship commanders are actually requesting permission to withdraw." The psychological impact was devastating. The hegemony had built their empire on a simple principle: overwhelming force backed by a reputation for invincibility. For over 1,000 years, no one had successfully resisted them. Their very name struck fear into the hearts of entire civilizations. But fear was a two-edged sword. When the source of that fear proved vulnerable, when the mighty could be brought low, the psychological effect was catastrophic. Across the hegemony fleet, alien crews stared at their tactical displays in growing terror. How could one ship destroy so many? What kind of monsters were these humans, sir? "The cruiser Death's Hand is breaking formation," Kim reported. "They're trying to run for the hyperspace jump point." "Not on my watch," Han growled. "Do-yoon, target their engines. Time to show the galaxy what happens to bullies who try to run away." Weapons Officer Lee had become an artist of destruction. The ship's original armament had been exhausted hours ago, but she had turned every system on. The ship into a weapon, their communication ray, designed to send messages across space, had been rewired into an electromagnetic pulse cannon that fried alien electronics, the atmospheric processes. Meant to clean their air, now spewed clouds of corrosive chemicals that ate through alien alarm like acid. Firing improvised EMP burst, Do-yoon announced. The Thunderbolt's communication dish glowed white-hot as it discharged months of stored energy in a single pulse. The fleeing cruiser's lights went out like someone had flipped a switch, leaving it drifting helplessly in space. But the most devastating weapon was one that Park had created from pure necessity. Their waste reclamation system, damaged in the initial attack, had been turned into a chemical warfare dispenser, the byproducts of human metabolism, when properly processed and concentrated, created compounds that were toxic to most alien species. Target: the Domination's life support intakes, Han ordered. "Let's see how they like breathing our leftovers." The alien ship's crew abandoned their posts within minutes, choking on clouds of processed human waste that their environmental systems couldn't filter. It was crude, disgusting, and absolutely effective. The *Domination* joined the growing list of disabled vessels drifting round New Horizon. By the sixth of battle, the impossible had become reality. Half the hegemony fleet was either destroyed or disabled, their massive hulks spinning dead in space or fleeing toward the outer system. The Thunderbolt though battered and held together by engineering miracles, continued its relentless assault on the planet's surface. 2 million colonists cheered as burning debris from alien warships streaked across their sky-like. Falling stars, children who had hidden in basements were now pressed against windows, watching their protectors paint the heavens with the destruction of their enemies. The quantum networks carried the impossible news to every corner of the galaxy. On hegemony capital worlds, alien leaders watched their supposedly invincible fleet being systematically destroyed by a single human ship in the slave quarters of occupied planets. Beings who had never known freedom whispered the name of the ship that was fighting for them. Thunderbolt. The tide of war had turned, and everyone in the galaxy knew it. The age of hegemony dominance was ending, and the age of human warfare had begun. The stars themselves seemed to burn brighter as hope spread like wildfire across 1,000 worlds. And in the command chair of a battered but unbroken human warship, Captain Han DeYoung smiled as he prepared for the next phase of the battle. The aliens wanted a war. He'd give them one they'd never forget. The bridge of the Eternal Dominion had become a tomb of shattered dreams and broken pride. Admiral Zethric stood among the wreckage of his command center, his forearms trembling as he stared at the tactical display that told the story of his complete and utter defeat. Round him, the bridge crew, once proud warriors of the Krillian Empire, cowered behind their stations like frightened children. 24 hours ago, he had commanded the most powerful fleet in this sector, 64 warships, each one a masterpiece of alien engineering, had followed him into battle against what should have been an easy target. Now, only 23 ships remained operational, and most of those were barely holding together. The rest floated dead in space, their hulls cracked open like broken eggs. "Sir," his tactical officer whispered, his voice barely audible above the sparking of damaged consoles. "The human ship, it's moving again. Their weapons are still active." Through the massive view screen, the Thunderbolt emerged from behind. A cloud of debris like death itself. The human ship looked like it had been through hell. Its hull was scorched black. Entire sections were held together with emergency patches, and one of its engine pods was completely gone. But somehow, impossibly, it was still fighting. The sight of that battered but unbroken vessel sent waves of terror through the surviving hegemony fleet. How could something so damaged still be so dangerous? It defied everything they thought they knew about warfare. Captain Han DeYoung's voice cut through space with the authority of a judge pronouncing sentence. "Admiral Zethric, this is your final warning. Withdraw your forces immediately, or face complete annihilation." The words hit the alien admiral like physical blows in all his centuries of conquest. No one had ever dared speak to him like that. The hegemony didn't receive ultimatums they gave them. They were the masters of the galaxy, the apex predators of space. But now, surrounded by the wreckage of his fleet, Zethric felt something he had never experienced before. Helplessness. "You dare threaten the hegemony?" He raged into his communicator, though his voice cracked with barely contained panic. His compound eyes darted frantically across the tactical display, searching for some advantage, some way to salvage victory from the jaws of defeat. "We are the masters of this galaxy. We have conquered 1,000 worlds. Our empire spans, and now you're about to lose to one human ship." Captain Han's reply was calm, almost casual. "How will that look in your history books, Admiral? the day the mighty hegemony was broken by 200 humans and a mining vessel. The psychological warfare was as devastating as the physical combat had been across the galaxy. Quantum communication networks carried the impossible news on hegemony capital worlds. Alien leaders watched in horror as their supposedly invincible fleet was systematically destroyed. In the slave quarters of occupied planets, beings who had never known freedom whispered the name that was spreading like wildfire, Thunderbolt *. On the industrial world of Vega Prime, a group of enslaved Quillian workers suddenly stopped their assembly line. Their hegemony overseers screamed orders, but for the first time in decades. The slaves weren't listening. They were watching a broadcast from New Horizon, seeing proof that the masters of the galaxy could bleed. "Look," one worker whispered to another. "They're running scared. The mighty hegemony is begging for mercy from humans." Rebellions were already breaking out on 17 occupied worlds. The Empire's reputation for invincibility, their greatest weapon, lay in ruins along with their fleet. When gods proved mortal, their worshippers quickly became their executioners. Back on the Thunderbolt *, Chief Engineer Park Jin-woo's voice crackled over the intercom with barely contained excitement. "Captain, I've been saving this for last. Remember that experimental fusion torpedo we were supposed to test next month? The one that Command said was too dangerous for field trials." Captain Hand's eyes gleamed with predatory satisfaction after 6 hours of impossible combat. After watching his crew perform miracles with duct tape and determination, he was ready to end this. "Deploy it, Puck. Let's show these aliens what human ingenuity really looks like." The bridge crew of the Eternal Dominion watched in confusion as the human ship turned away from them, aiming not at the surviving hegemony vessels but at something far more distant. Their sensors tracked the single missile as it streaked through space toward an impossible target, the system's star itself. "What are they doing?" Zethric demanded. "Are they trying to destroy the star?" "That's impossible. Even we don't have weapons that powerful. But humans didn't need to destroy the star. They just needed to tickle it in exactly the right way." The experimental fusion torpedo, designed to trigger controlled nuclear reactions in stellar matter, struck the star's chromosphere with surgical precision. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the star's surface erupted in a massive solar flare that cascaded across the entire system like the wrath of an angry god. The electromagnetic pulse was devastating. One by one, the surviving hegemony ships went dark as their electronics fried. Emergency lighting flickered and died. Life support systems failed. Weapons went offline. The proud warships of the galaxy's greatest empire became nothing more than drifting metal coffins. Only the Eternal Dominion maintained power, its military-grade shielding barely protecting it from the electromagnetic storm. But even Admiral Zephric's flagship was crippled, its shields flickering like a dying candle as backup systems struggled to compensate. The Thunderbolt built with the hardened electronics of a deep space mining vessel, rode out the storm like it was nothing more than a light breeze. When the flare subsided, Captain Han found himself alone in space with the crippled remnants of what had once been the sector's most powerful fleet. "Impressive, isn't it?" Han's voice cut through the static-filled communication channels. "That little trick was developed by human scientists who thought it might be useful for terraforming operations. Turns out it's also pretty good for dealing with alien bullies." Admiral Zethric looked round his darkened bridge, at the crew members struggling to restore power to critical systems, at the tactical display showing his fleet scattered and broken. In his first centuries of life, he had never imagined a defeat this complete, this humiliating. "This is impossible," he whispered. "One ship cannot defeat an entire fleet. It violates every principle of warfare. "That's your problem," Han replied. "You think warfare has rules. You think superior numbers guarantee victory. But humans learned long ago that the only rule in war is that there are no rules. We fight. With everything we have. Using every tool, every advantage, every dirty trick we can think of." The alien admiral's voice was broken when he finally responded. What do you want?" "Withdraw now," Captain Han ordered, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had just redefined the balance of power in the galaxy. "Take your crippled ships and limp back to whatever hole you crawled out of, and when you get there, spread the word throughout your empire. Humanity is no longer hiding in the shadows. We're coming for anyone who threatens our people. The age of hegemony dominance is over." In the silence that followed, the only sound was the crackling of damaged electronics and the distant rumble of failing life support systems. The most powerful alien fleet in the sector had been broken by a single human ship and the crew that refused to give up. The galaxy would never be the same. The Eternal Dominion limped through space like a wounded beast. Its once proud hull now, scorched and broken, Admiral Zethric sat in his damaged command chair, staring at the tactical display that showed the complete destruction of his fleet. Round him, the bridge crew worked frantically to restore basic life support as emergency lighting cast airy shadows across the wreckage. "Sir," his communications officer reported with a voice full of shame, "all surviving ships are requesting permission to retreat. The Death's Hand and Star Crusher are reporting total engine failure. They're requesting immediate evacuation." Zephyr closed his compound eyes, feeling the weight of 1,000 years of hegemony dominance crashing down round him. In his first centuries of life, he had conquered dozens of star systems, crushed rebellions across 3 galactic sectors, and never once tasted defeat. Now, he was broadcasting the unthinkable a general retreat order to all hegemony forces. In the sector, all ships. He spoke into his communicator, his voice barely above a whisper. "This is Admiral Zethric. Initiate immediate tactical withdrawal. Repeat, all forces are to disengage and retreat to rally point Epsilon 7. The words tasted like poison in his mouth. Across the hegemony fleet, alien crews who had never known defeat scrambled to obey orders that went against everything they had been taught. The mighty armada that had arrived at New Horizon with such confidence now fled like scattered leaves before a hurricane. On the bridge of the Thunderbolt Captain Han Duyang watched the alien ships disappear into hyperspace one by one. His weathered face showed no triumph, only grim satisfaction. Round him, his crew worked to assess the damage from their impossible victory. The ship looked like it had been chewed up and spat out by an angry god. But somehow, miraculously, it was still flying. "Captain," called out Navigation Officer Choi Minho, his voice filled with excitement, "I'm detecting multiple hyperspace signatures. 12 ships incoming." Broadcasting Terran Defense Force identification codes, the view screen flickered to life, showing a formation of human warships dropping out of hyperspace. These were newer vessels, sleek and powerful, their hulls gleaming with fresh paint and modern armor. But as their crews got a clear look at the debris field around New Horizon, their cheers could be heard across all communication channels. "Sweet Mother of Earth," came a voice from the lead ship. The TDF Defiance "Captain Han, is that really the wreckage of an entire hegemony fleet? How many ships did you face?" 64. Han replied calmly, as if he were discussing the weather. "We convinced them to leave." The silence that followed was broken by the sound of an entire fleet of human ships erupting in cheers. Word of the victory spread through the reinforcement fleet like wildfire, and soon every ship was broadcasting congratulations to the crew of the Thunderbolt But Captain Hon knew the real victory wasn't military, it was psychological. The hegemony had built their empire on fear, on the belief that resistance was futile. Now, that foundation was crumbling. Lieutenant Kim Sora's communications board suddenly exploded with incoming transmissions from across the galaxy. Her eyes widened as she tried to process the flood of messages. "Captain, we're receiving communications from everywhere. 17 different species are requesting formal alliance with humanity. The Zentari Confederation wants to send ambassadors. The Quillian Republic is offering military support." She paused, scrolling through more messages. "Sir, the hegemony is facing active rebellions on 43 worlds. Their garrison on Vega Prime was overthrown 3 hours ago. The slave camps on Delta Orionis have been liberated by their own prisoners. The galaxy was on fire with revolution, on world after world. Species that had been ground under the hegemony's boot for centuries were rising up with newfound hope. The impossible had happened. The masters of the galaxy had been defeated, and by a species that most aliens had dismissed as primitive newcomers. Chief Engineer Park Jinwoo emerged from the bowels of the ship, his uniform stained with grease and coolant, but wearing the biggest grin anyone had ever seen. "Damage control teams report we're still spaceworthy. Captain, hull integrity at 60%. Main engines operational, and somehow our reactor is still humming along. Ready for the next fight." The Thunderbolt had become more than just a warship. It was a symbol that burned bright across the galaxy, on occupied worlds. Resistance fighters painted the ship's name on walls and whispered it like a prayer. On hegemony capital worlds, alien leaders trembled as they tried to understand how their greatest fleet had been destroyed by a single human vessel. The careful balance of power that had maintained hegemony dominance for over a millennium was shattered. The galaxy's oppressed species no longer saw humans as newcomers to be dismissed, but as liberators to be feared by tyrants and celebrated by the enslaved. Admiral Zethric's final transmission. BOADCAST across all frequencies as his crippled flagship limped toward the nearest hegemony base, became legendary throughout the galaxy. "Command, this is Admiral Zethric. The humans, they don't fight like civilized species. They turn everything into a weapon. They never give up. They never surrender. They make war personal. Recommend immediate strategic reassessment of human capabilities." Captain Han's response, broadcast on the same frequency for all to hear, echoed across 1,000 worlds. "This is Captain Han Duyan of the Terran defense ship Thunderbolt *. To every species listening across the galaxy, remember this day. This is what happens when you underestimate humanity. We don't just fight to win, we fight to make sure you never forget why you lost. The galaxy has a new rule: leave human colonies alone, or face the consequences." As the Thunderbolt * departed New Horizon orbit, its hull scarred, but its crew victorious, reports continued to arrive of hegemony fleets retreating from human space throughout the sector. Other species, long cowed by alien oppression, were rising up with new hope. The age of hegemony dominance was ending, and the age of human liberation had begun. On the bridge, Captain Han looked out at the stars with tired but determined eyes. Set course for Earth. He ordered, "It's time to tell Command that humanity is no longer hiding in the shadows. We're ready to take our place among the stars." The Thunderbolt * turned toward home, carrying with it the news that would reshape the galaxy. Behind them, New Horizons to million colonists watched their protectors depart, knowing they had witnessed the birth of a new era. The galaxy would never underestimate humanity again. The age of human dominance had begun, forged in the fires of impossible victory and tempered by the courage of those who refused to surrender. ***, the end ***.